A couple of months ago, Loomian Legacy hosted a design contest on the Discord, where members of the community could submit their own custom reskins of Loomians with a chance of them being added into the game. This isn't actually the first time they've done something like this though, and the first time they did a contest was actually a bit more interesting. The first design contest was hosted all the way back in 2021, and it was pretty similar to the one that happened this year, but there was a couple of important changes. One of the differences was that instead of the entire community participating, it was just a pre-selected list of artists, but the most important difference was that instead of making reskins, the artists were making completely original Loomian lines. There were 3 winners of the contest, which are Oxydrake, Harvesect, and Wintrix, which all went on to become very popular Loomians. But what about the Loomians that lost? Excluding the winners, there was an enormous 89 Loomians that were created for this contest, and all of them have since been scrapped or just completely forgotten about. Some of them kinda deserve to be forgotten about, but there's also some really cool Loomian designs in there, and I wanted to shine a bit of light on them after no one's cared about them for the past 3 years. So today I'm going to be looking at every Loomian from the original design contest and saying my thoughts about each one of them. In addition to that, I'll also be putting every evolutionary line on a tier list, ranking them based on how much I like them. Entries near the top are my favourite Loomians and ones that I hope eventually get added one day, and the opposite for the Loomians at the bottom. Before I start, if you end up enjoying this video, please subscribe, because at 2,000 subscribers, I'll be doing a ranking of every single Loomian that's currently in the game, and I've been stuck on like 1,000 subscribers for like a year and a half, please. And without further ado, let's look at some unused Loomians. That sounded a lot cooler in my head. I'm gonna cover these in the order that they were originally posted on the Discord, so first up we've got Lurling and Dwellel. I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be jellyfish, but they also kind of look like glowing mushrooms. Their design is kind of simple, but it works pretty well, I think. They kind of remind me of a Subnautica creature with how much bioluminescence they have. Also, making some of their tentacles look a bit more like hands is actually a really nice touch. It gives them quite a lot more character. I think if the Jelusa line didn't exist, these guys could work pretty well in their place, but Jelusa does exist, so I'm gonna put these guys in the B tier. I wouldn't be too upset if they got added, but their role is pretty much already filled, so it'd be like if we got even more dog Loomians after we have so many of them. Oh my god, please stop adding dog Loomians. Next up are Monsoon, Nishimi, and Neremos. I think I'm pronouncing those wrong. And they're little serpent dragon thingies. I'm not really a fan of Serpentine Fakemon, or at least the ones that were made for this competition, so pretty much all of them are going to be knocked down a bit because of that. The final stage of the line is pretty good, but it's kind of just a bigger version of the second stage, which is a bigger version of the first stage. This is something I usually like to refer to as getting bigger syndrome, and it's going to show up in this video quite a lot, unfortunately. I do think this line is at least decent, the design concept is definitely there, and the colours are pretty appealing, but there's some strange decisions, like I never get why Serpentine Fakemon always include wings, and again, there's not really much variety when they evolve, they pretty much just are the same Loomian, but they get slightly bigger and add a bit more stuff. For some Fakemon, that actually does work quite well, but I don't really think it does here. Apparently, they're also holiday Loomians, and I have no clue what that means. Maybe the creator intended for them to be like event exclusive or something. If anything, this line reminds me of like the Tales of Tenorio Firestarter, but if it wasn't fire type. I know this came years earlier, but like, shut up. These guys are going to go into the C tier. I like the idea, but I wish the evolutions were a bit more different from each other, and I feel like there's probably a bit more that could have been done with this concept. Next up are Aquati and Aquatina. I do not know how to explain my thoughts on these guys very well. They kind of feel like they're just some OC from a roleplay game, honestly. Also, again, the Serpentine designs, which I just said I don't really like, and this is not changing my opinion on them. I didn't really bring this up for many other Loomians, but I hate these guys' names. Like, what? They're so boring, and what is a Tina? Tina's just like a person's name. And slapping the word aqua in a water type's name to signify that it's a water type, you're not creative, please stop doing that. I haven't really talked about the actual designs of these Loomians, and that's because they just feel so nothing to me. I don't really know how to explain that, but they're just there. They kind of feel like an amalgam of a bunch of different underwater animals that were just slapped together. Like, why do they have a horn? I was originally going to put these guys in the C tier when I scripted this video, but after a bit of thinking about it and looking at the script, the D tier is looking kind of lonely on there, so D tier for these guys. Next, we have a set of Grumpita, Togopus, and Cholo Cannon. I think these are supposed to be cacti, but they don't really look the part, honestly. After staring at them for a bit, they really remind me of the Brawl Stars art style, but that could just be me. If the line was just Grimpita and Togepi, I think it would actually be like A tier material, but what is Cholo Cannon? So to evolve a Grimpita into a Cholo Cannon, it needs to level up past level 31 while holding a Power Core. 1, this is a different level to the level that you evolve Togepi at, which is really annoying. 2, it's not a weather, which is also kind of annoying, but not that unprecedented. But the main gripe I have with this is that it's a Power Core that you use to evolve it. Why? Power cores in universe are only produced by Pollet Corp, and they're specifically for Gardrone to upgrade it. How can this random cactus, after like probably millions of years of just existing in the wild, find like a radiating core of power, pick it up, level up, and then just turn into a cannon? Also, the design itself is just kind of, it looks like a tennis ball launcher. I hate it. These guys are going to be at the top of B tier. Again, I would like them far more if Cholo Cannon didn't exist. Next up, we have a Aen and a Noron. I really like these designs, but they hardly fit in with the rest of the Loomians. They feel more like something you'd find with Terraria's Calamity mod than something you'd find living next to the dead dog and haunted teddy bear. Like, these guys are extremely close to just being people in my eyes. Just a note while editing, after looking back at them, they don't look anywhere near as close to people as I thought they did, but they definitely still feel out of place compared to most Loomians. All of that aside, the gender dimorphism is pretty cool. It's something that very few Loomians have, and I'm pretty sure none of the other contest Loomians have it either. But why do you stick the woman with the staff? Why don't they get the really cool giant scythe? That's so mean! I really like this design, but again, I can't justify putting it any higher than B tier in my head. If this was just strictly like character design, I think they'd be a bit higher, but I just don't feel like they'd fit in well with any of the other Loomians. Maybe that's a bit of a weird reasoning, because like Loomian designs are always changing with every update, but that's just how I feel. Next up we have Axolotls with a big question mark. These are Axolotic and Animoxotl. I hate that name. I kinda wish these looked more like axolotls though, and less like, I don't know what these are, 4-legged creatures? Like, they claim to be axolotl Loomians and then don't really look like them at all. I'm also not sure what this thing on its back is. I think it might be coral, but it kind of looks like a suspiciously exposed organ, which I don't really like. I didn't really want to bring up the gleaming designs because they end up just getting changed when fan-made Loomians are added, but honestly, if the gamma colors were just the regular one, I think I would like this Loomian a lot more. The gamma coloration just kind of pulls this Loomian together for me, a lot more than the regular colors do. I'm also gonna say, these don't really look like toxic types. I feel like that's a problem with a lot of toxic types and just a lot of Loomians in general, but I'm still gonna bring it up. These guys are just gonna go into the B tier. So far we've had a pretty good streak of decent Loomians, but I think we can agree that these next designs aren't exactly great. So first off, I know making a good fake mod name can be really hard, but surely you could have done something better than Elecub and Elitar. Like, that's literally just what they are, plus the animal that they are based off of, without making them flow nicely or anything. And, like, the designs, they're just cheetahs with fire on the back. That's negative creativity. This is the first line so far to have an entirely unique type combo, which is pretty cool. But that's the only unique thing I have to say about them. They're unfortunately going to be the first line I put in the F tier. Pretty unfortunate that we have a design that I actively dislike, but oh well, not all of these are going to be winners. Oh my god, winner from Teapot. Oh, okay, next up we have, oh come on. F***ing Pop Ice and Wolf Glace. I'm actually gonna go insane. They're not even creative, they're just Ice Dog. Just like how I'm Glace Burn. Shit, I need a name change now. Besides the names, I'm still not a big fan of these guys. They're strangely tall and don't even feel much like ice types besides the fact that they're blue. This concept has the potential to be cool, but the execution does not do it. They're gonna go to the bottom of D tier, just barely being safe from F, because at least they're slightly more interesting than, oh god. Moving on from bad ice types, we have really good ice types, but they also have really weird names. Archer, Bryadol, and Vernono, which are all penguins, but they actually have rocks. I really like the kind of spiraled eyes they have. I'm just realizing they're like the doors modifier symbol. Oh my god, my brain. I hate pattern-seeking brain. I also like how the final stage swaps out all the white on its body for orange. That looks really nice. Really great designs. I would have vastly preferred these as a penguin Loomian instead of Sherbot. A tier, partially because I need to start filling that tier out a bit, but also I kinda wish the first two stages used the orange on their stomachs as well. I admit that would make the final stage a bit less unique, but it looks so nice. Next up we have Verid and Druaba, who are little tree guys. They are distinct enough from the Kabunga line, but I definitely feel like they could pass as a variant of them, which I'm not really a big fan of. However, I do really like how Druaba has a power fruit in its design. Fake mon that include obtainable items in the design are really cool. There should be more of them. They look a bit better each time I look at them, so I'm just gonna throw these guys in the A tier, but I feel like they could move up to S tier in the future? Personally, I just like a bit more plant life on their designs, especially on Druaba's head, because it is a tree after all, it probably should have leaves. Next up, we have... I do not see a name here. These guys are Loomians? The sentence is over. This one kind of looks like a Subnautica guy, honestly. I like that. I don't really have much else to say about them though. I think I'm slowly becoming numb to ocean-based designs after how long we spent in the Atlantean area. The final stage is yet another Serpentine-ish design, but I don't hate it as much as the others. It has fins it uses as legs, which is kinda cool, I guess. These guys are gonna go to the top of C tier. They're just kind of there. I wouldn't be too upset if they were added, but I kind of feel like there's a lot more options that deserve to be added first. Thankfully, the next Loomians actually do have names. Here we have Glost and Latome, which are little glowing ghost lizards? I don't really see the lizard part. These guys are just kinda neat. I feel like it's what would happen if Marami and Maraith weren't mirrors, but I guess that makes sense considering they share pretty much the exact same color scheme. I also feel like they would have been a pretty good fit as the Fog Loomian, with them having all the glowing elements like Charonix's line does. The only real problem they suffer from is just a tiny bit of getting bigger syndrome, but besides that, they're just pretty cool. A tier. Now you may be wondering, Lily Glace Burn, are you going to put anything into the S tier? You have gone 12 entire lines without putting anything in there. What the hell, it's another 2-stage mine-type jellyfish line, how is there another one of these? Before you scream at me for placing them so much higher than the last ones, they're actually surprisingly different, they aren't water types, and they have all of these mystical, sparkly things on them. Jelly's just kinda okay, it's just a little guy, it's just there. I'm not a massive fan, but I love Jelligant's design. Loomian Legacy doesn't really have a fairy type, so we don't get designs like this very often. It's very over-the-top cute, and I love it. Also, the tentacles flowing around the entire body instead of just sitting below it like a regular jellyfish, that's such a great touch. This line is going to be the first to be an S tier. You could probably debate that, but look at them, how could you not put them there? Next up we have... what is this? Kapua, Spiritus, and Aquaptus are just kinda weird. At first I thought they were like Kiego but for the pike line, but nope, they're not. They just kinda look similar, and honestly they're pretty nothing designs for me. I'm not entirely sure what I don't like about them, but I just don't like them. Also, the Lumipedia entry reveals some lore about them, which is kinda weird. Like, Kapua is a spirit trapped in metal, however that works. And then Aquaptus somehow made the spirit turn into water? What? I can't really justify putting them in F tier because like they are actual designs, unlike someone we know. So, D tier it is. I really feel like I'm missing some like giant design inspiration here, so please, if you know what these guys are, tell me, I'm so confused. This is now the third jellyfish line in this video. Like, I know they're pretty cool animals, but like, Jesus, do we need so many? Marilly, Ledley, and Jelona, besides having kinda names, they're just kinda fine. At least from these drawings, they look kind of humanoid, which I think is kind of strange considering the first stage is more like an actual jellyfish. But Polyp did the same thing too, so I guess who cares? My biggest problem with this line, besides it being an idea that's already been done a couple times before, is that like I wish the colors were just a bit more like eye-catching, I guess? Like, I wish there was more contrast between the shades of grey that they used. I sat here recording for like 10 minutes trying to explain what I mean, but I can't think of how to word it. Just like look at the artwork in the bottom right of it. That's what I mean. I want them to do that. There's not really much else to say other than that, so the B tier for these guys. Oh my god, for these next ones, I am really glad that I had another look at the script after I was done writing it, because these are sick, and I almost completely ignored them for the world's stupidest reason. So when I was writing this video, I took really tiny screenshots of the Loomians for some reason, and I just completely kept on skipping this Loomian when I was writing the script, so I just was like, okay, it's kinda just fine. But I love these guys. Seflow and Serpentine are supposed to be sea slugs, and I don't really see the resemblance, but like, who cares? They are awesome. Like, this guy pretty much looks like the ice dragon Leviathan in Subnautica. Oh my god. Okay, maybe the resemblance isn't super close, but like, they still remind me of it. I think it's the wings that really sell the design for me. Like, it makes no sense for an underwater creature to have them, like, especially a sea slug, but like, they have it and it's awesome. Also, the wings look like Moldeka. Is that just me? It might just be me. Anyway, straight up to S tier for these guys. Massive redemption arc. I did cause that myself, but like, shut up. Moving on, we're going from a design that I love to a design that I don't really love. Pona and Kimoto are just so there. I don't really know what it is about this line, but it just feels a bit bland. And I feel like I'm being really hypocritical when I say that, because there's a couple other lines in this video that I feel like could be far more bland in some people's eyes, but I don't know, these guys just really don't do it for me, and I have nothing else to say about them. C tier. Dude, what am I looking at? Yobe, Yobara, and Yokage with the capital K for some reason are like, it's the top half of a monkey that's on top of a seashell that turns into a baby jumper crab thing. The two halves of the design feel so disconnected from each other, like it's literally one of those Skylanders that let you swap the body parts around. The typings honestly don't really feel that clear either, like, besides the fact that they're red, the first two stages do not feel like fire types at all, and they especially don't feel like water types. You can more clearly tell in the final stage for the typing because it has a bit of both fire and water in the design, but like, come on dude. You know, it's probably not a good thing when half of what I talk about in this section is the typing's not really making visual sense. Yeah, so I'm just gonna put this line D tier and we're gonna move on. Okay, am I wrong in saying this kinda looks like something that would come from Adopt Me? I don't know, it just like reminds me of the thumbnail art style kind of. Anyways, we have yet another line with no names. How has this happened multiple times? Genuinely, a name is such an important part of a Fakemon design, and so many of these entries just don't have any. Okay, this is such a strange feeling line to me. Like, it half feels like it's out of one of those Evolve Your Dragon games instead of being a Fakemon, and again, it kind of feels like an Adopt Me thing. The first two stages are practically the same, but then one's a ghost, and like, that's cool, but why? Also, they have a battle gimmick, which is kind of interesting to include, but correct me if I'm wrong, but is being able to get +3 attack for just using stab moves, and only losing a bit of accuracy because of it, kind of broken? I'm pretty sure it is. Also, I haven't really brought up evolution methods that much because most of the time they're not really relevant for this, but this one just feels so funny to me. Like, they're confident that the first stage needs Sun to evolve, which still is not a weather in the game over 3 years later, but they're unsure if the second stage needs it. Like, you made this Loomian, choose an option! Side tangent aside, I don't know, like C tier? Head empty, no more thoughts. This is the last place I thought I'd see early route birds show up in, but alright I guess. Winglet and Aerogene are based off of planes, which is unfortunate because the already existing Avatros line is also pretty much based off of planes. This was made before the remodel too, so Avatros still had the pilot goggles. I actually don't hate these designs though, even if they're still a bit basic. Might be a bit unjustified, but I'm gonna be putting them in B tier. Low B tier mind you, because they still are very simple early route birds, but I actually would prefer these to some of the other options. We are never gonna escape them. Okay, next up we have what are probably my favorite designs from the entire video. We have Therlon, Orsythe, and Velocirex, who are raptors and very cool looking ones at that. I am a really big fan of the colors you see. Like, the orange looks so good, oh my god. Also, it's literally a dinosaur with scythes on its legs, that's just inherently awesome. I think maybe the middle stage suffers a bit from getting bigger syndrome, so it should be a bit more different, but other than that, I adore this line. If we didn't already have an ancient brawler Loomian in the UMV, they'd fit right in. These guys are going straight to S tier, and to the top of it, I absolutely love them. And I did a bit more research after I wrote this video, and it seems like this line almost got into the game, but it got the 4th most votes and lost to Harvesect. I still love Harvesect, but I'm incredibly upset. Exultin, Axolona, why would he call him Alona? That's so mean. And Exotagon are axolotls. I don't really think they look like axolotls, but their name suggests they are, so somehow this has happened twice. How has that happened? They're so whimsical looking though, I love them. The final stage is like if you took the Ludrix, made it pink, and then tilted it 90 degrees. Peak Fakemon right there, oh my god. This is another line that kind of feels like it's a fairy type despite there not being a fairy type in Loomian Legacy. It's pretty cool. Also, this line has 3 different colorations like Mochibi does, and that's also pretty cool. I wish we could see more of them than just the head of the final stage, but like, what's shown off is pretty nice looking. My only major complaint is that the middle stage kind of suffers from quite a lot of getting bigger syndrome. And personally, I think I'll just get rid of it and make it similar to the Marilly line, where the first stage evolves pretty late, but then has a massive change in aesthetics and stats. These guys are gonna go to the A tier, they're pretty cool. This next line is actually the final one that I ranked while I was writing this video, but it is very far from the last one. There's still like half the video to go, oh my god. Turban, Fufagi, and Logoku are earth rabbits that have kind of random crystals in their ears, and they get dropped in the final stage. These guys remind me of something I'd find in like a fantasy MMO for some reason, I don't know. I think especially the last stage feels very similar to some other rabbit Fakemon that I know. I.e., there's literally no way this wasn't made as like somewhat furry bait. Like they literally have thigh highs on, oh my god. I'm only gonna give these guys a B tier because I feel like you could have probably done something more with the crystals instead of just putting them on the ears. Like it went from being a funky looking rabbit to like a cereal mascot. Whale Lotus and Ball Luga feel like the whale version of Mishana, and it's kinda great, honestly. They're one of the very few mind types that I feel like encapsulates the more magic and mystical side of the type that Pokemon does quite a lot with Psychic type. I really love the clouds on them, like especially the ones that they use in fins. That's such a cool idea. I honestly really don't have much to say about them besides that though. They're just high quality designs, I think. A tier. Flurksy, Glaco, and Galagmite are so very elemental looking. This one looks like a Kirby enemy. They feel so abstract, but at the same time, they're not. Like, I love Galagmite besides its weird floating hand things, but the rest of the line is just a bit weird. I wish they looked more like a wind spirit thing, like Galagmite does. Like right now, Glaco kinda just looks like Ghost if it was air type, and Flurksy kinda still looks more like a Kirby enemy than a Loomian. B tier line, it's honestly kinda carried by Galagmite. Necrobrid and Congerstein are like Fan Cub, but if you replace the cub but with rabbit. I would rank them down for being pretty much the same idea as another Loomian, but they like actually execute the idea much better in my opinion. Necrobrid feels way more emotive than Fan Cub could ever strive to be. Such a silly looking face. Also, the whiskers being sewing pins is such a cute detail, I love that so much. And Congerstein won me over because of the fact that it's a plush that's using a sewing needle as a sword, oh my god, what? That's such a cool idea. It also did the Lopunny thing where it has like fluff on its arms but it's stuffing, oh my god. I feel like Congerstein probably could have changed a bit more, like it does suffer a tiny bit from getting bigger syndrome, but this is still like such a good line, very high A tier. Ah, hey look, it's Wintrix. This line was one of the winners of the contest, and personally I think it deserved it. Each Loomian here has multiple drawings of it, which really helps visualize how they're going to look in game. I won't be putting these guys on the tier list because obviously they already won, but if they were supposed to be on the tier list, I would put them pretty high up. My main problem with this line is I just wish the colours were a bit brighter. Like, especially on Wintrix, they feel kinda muted and it's unfortunate. Also, fun fact, the person who made this line, Floygon, actually went on to be an official Loomian designer, which is pretty cool. Repuppy, Fantowns, and Cerberus are kinda sad because I feel like almost everyone except for me will find them really cool. They're based on Cerberus, which is like this 3-headed dog in hell, and that's a really cool inspiration for a Fakemon design. I'm just not really a fan of the execution. The thing I don't really like is the multiple heads, which I know is the entire point of the design. Ugh. All of the heads are just in a row next to each other at the front, which just makes it look a bit awkward. At least it's not as awkward looking as Novadius' though. Besides that, I really like the ghostly shackles on the final stage, and one of its legs being bones like the skeleton roamers, but I feel like this should have also been in the first 2 stages, like at least a bit. They're not spirit types, but they literally have Reaper and Phantom in them, definitely a bit ghostly. The first 2 stages actually feel a bit generic besides the multiple heads actually. I'm putting this line in B tier, but I can see a lot of other people putting it far higher. Chiari and Chichisai are Loomians? The sentence is over, moving on. Okay, so I do actually have a bit more to say than just that. These guys feel like such nothing designs to me. If anything, they feel more like a OC you'd see in a roleplay game than a Loomian. They're also, without a doubt, the biggest offenders for getting bigger syndrome here. Like, this thing barely changes when it evolves. The biggest thing that they have going for them is that they can shoot needles from their tail, which is somewhat cool, but honestly, I don't find it that interesting. These guys definitely got screwed over by the decision to make them typeless types. Like, back then, typeless was obviously still a thing, and it wasn't the simple type, so they couldn't be paired with any other typings, so they end up just being really basic. Unfortunate D tier. I feel like if this design was made now, it would be way more interesting. It does feel a bit weird ranking these guys so low compared to like the Erogene line, but oh well. And here we have another line that went completely under my radar the first time I looked at them, but I now really like. Tadile, Module, and Mosaurile are obviously mosasaurs. I really like the purple in this design, I think it works surprisingly well. My only real complaint is that the first two stages feel a bit too similar to each other, at least size-wise, but besides that, yeah, they're just pretty good Loomians. Not my absolute favourite, but they're up there in A tier. That's all I have to say about them. Moving on. Out of every Loomian here, this one absolutely feels the most out of place. What the hell is Aquarital? Aquarital? What is this thing? I have many problems with it. One, it's a single stage, which I'm not really a big fan of. They don't really get the big powering up moment that Loomians get when they evolve, but that's just a personal pet peeve with them. Two, what actually is this design? Maybe I'm not understanding the design origins or something, but it feels extremely disconnected. Why does it have like a Triceratops head fan thing? Why is its face covered by a starfish? Why does it have a shell made of water on its back with real life fish inside of it? This feels like something you'd see in one of those like redrawing kids character videos. F tier for this thing. I do not like you. And here we have yet another one of the contest winners, the Harvesect line. You know, I love bug type Loomians, and this one is definitely up there as one of the best. The only real complaints I have are that in-game the ghost bugs on Harvesect's back look a bit and also the evolution method is a bit annoying. I feel like it probably should be changed to something like knock out a couple wild Loomians with it. I don't know, I feel like that'd be less annoying. Other than that, like really good designs, I love this line. The next Loomians, Rancy and Bunsey, are based on an animal that is somehow real called the Sea Bunny. Like, how does this thing actually exist? It does not look real. The first stage looks more like a real life sea bunny, but the final stage is literally like a sea bunny mermaid thingy. I actually really like this though. Typically, like I've said before, I don't really like snake or serpent designs all too much because they kind of just end up being tubes. But this guy's pretty cute, I really like him. Oh yeah, the first stage is cool I guess, but I'm not a super big fan of it being stuck in the clam. Like, I guess it adds some nice visuals, but I feel it could be more cool if it was outside of the clam. Unfortunately, I don't really think I can justify putting this line in S tier just because I like one member of it, so A tier for you guys. Wow, I'm really putting a lot of stuff in A tier. Nubin, Daztomb, and Dolrap are kind of similar to Twilight, but instead of being based on a jerboa, they're based on the Egyptian god Anubis. Honestly, they kind of remind me more of those hairless cats than Anubis, but that doesn't really matter. I have a problem with this line though. I like it, and I don't really know why. Like, I would absolutely use these guys on a playthrough, but I can't put my finger on why I like them so much. I guess they kind of look similar to Lycanroc, and I like Lycanroc, so that could be why? I don't know, I'm just putting these guys in A tier. Here we have another snake line. Why do people like making these so much? It's like the jellyfish, we have so many of them. At least this one is very unique compared to the others. It's not just a snake, it's a Venus flytrap? I'm not actually sure what it is, but it's pretty cool. It's another line without a name though, like this is the third time this has happened? How? The first stage isn't just a normal snake and it has these prickly barriers around it, which is really cool. The final stage is also really sick, and I think it does the 3-head gimmick way better than the other Loomians that have done it. Like, instead of being full-sized heads on the side of the main one that just kind of look awkward, they're tiny little ones that look a bit like hands. I like that quite a lot. The only real complaint I have with this line is that I think the middle stage kind of suffers from getting bigger syndrome a bit. I feel like there's definitely stuff you could do to make it more distinct, but other than that, I don't really have any complaints. Surprisingly, I'm going to be putting Snake in A tier. Is this character development? Also, this is like the 20th thing I put in A tier. Oh my god, this next line I'm extremely mixed on. Camuchid, Dilobent, and Morsassin are like armadillo echidna things, and each time I look at them I feel slightly different about them. I really like the color schemes on all of them. For armadillo echidna things, it's really unique, but they really look like they're trying to be food Loomians to me. Camuchid literally rolls up to become a ball of lettuce, like, that's lettuce. I love Morsassin's design, but it looks a bit too close to Dakuda, I think? And I'm not entirely sure about Dillobent. I feel it could work a lot better if it looked a bit more defensive instead of being, like, glowing fumes. Like, why does it have glowing fumes? Like I said though, sometimes I look at it and it looks pretty okay, and then other times I look at it and it looks like, why? Dillobent may have brought this line down a bit, but it's still gonna be a pretty high B tier. It's the silly! Froth, Burloop, and Kitai are fruit cats and they're great. They've got neck pillars which are actually fruit and you can eat them, that's incredible. 10 out of 10. We genuinely do need more fruit to justify having an entire item tab exclusively for it, and this line would help quite a lot with that. The final stage looks really good, but the lower bodies of the first two look pretty awkward and are the main thing that brings this line down for me. The other thing that brings this line down is that I wish the colours were a bit more vibrant. Like, this is a fruit cat, and fruit is usually pretty vibrant looking. Even with those complaints, I cannot justify not putting these guys in A tier. They're just too silly looking. Also, they would be very high up on the list of Loomians that I would eat because you can literally harvest them for fruit and it doesn't hurt them. This is excellent. And here's the final actual winner of the contest, the Oxydrake line. These designs are pretty sick, but it's kind of insane how much I prefer the in-game model to these drawings. I like how they're less curvy and more pointy in the actual model of them. I don't know, the curves just kind of look wrong here. Also, I really hate the saddle. It would be infinitely cooler to be surfing on the tail pieces instead of sitting on the spiky part. Also, another minor complaint, if we get another cave, which is seeming to be less likely with every update honestly, please put a copling on the wall there. Just say some of them migrated or something, because as of right now, unless you're literally told about them by like some other player, they are like extremely easy to miss. And finally, we have the last line of the video. Dravilis, Coberia, and... What do you mean, You can't just submit an unfinished design to a contest, that's stupid! I'm not really a big fan of the first stage, it feels like it's way too simple of a design. Coberia is better, but it is still kind of a noodle thing with frilly things on it. It is an air type though, so it could use those frilly things as wings and fly around, which would be funny with animations and improve this line significantly. Seems like it can't though, so it's just kinda alright. As for maybe if it wasn't a silhouette and we could actually see it, I'd like it a bit more, but it's just kinda dragging the line down right now for me. D tier for don't submit unfinished designs to a contest, what are you doing? So, that's finally all of the Loomians from the first design contest. All 89 of them. Oh my god, this video took way too long. Looking at the final tier list, it actually ended up being a lot more high placing Loomians than I expected. If you want to do this yourself, the tier maker list is going to be in the description, or if you just want to argue with me about my placings, comment your thoughts. I would really love to hear about why you think Velociraptor is F tier and Wolfglace is S tier. Also, I do think it would be really cool if these Loomians got another shot at being added. Like, either doing the entire vote over again with these Loomians, or just adding what got 4th, 5th, and 6th. Both of those would work really well, I think. Anyways, thank you for watching, and bye! Oh my god.